Everybody is talking about the change Moon Jae-in could bring to the country's diplomacy. For instance, he talks about visiting Pyongyang if the conditions are right. He also was quoted as to have said that South Koreans should learn to say no to the United States. But is it too early to ask how much real change he can bring in?
Hello from London. Well, he has a very full in-tray. He was elected primarily on domestic issues in response to the previous government's misgovernance, corruption, etc. However, North Korea, the tension with North Korea is also a very, very important issue. I don't think we should expect too much progress too fast because this is a very, very complicated issue. However, we can look to positive signals. He has a strong mandate from the election. He's elected by a young demographic, which is far less hawkish than the supporters of the Conservatives. Also, his party, the United Democratic Party, the party of former presidents Kim Dae-jung and No Moo-hyun, has a history of engagement with North Korea. Also, if we look at the go back 10 years under the previous period of Liberal administration, the Liberal administrations did succeed in pushing a reluctant United States under George W. Bush towards two tentative nuclear agreements with North Korea.
What about this thing that he said about the South Koreans should learn to say no to the United States? How should we look at that?
Well, South Korea's defense is very much dependent on the United States. It's grounded on its alliance with the United States. And I think what he is driving at is that the United States must recognize that South Korea also has its own interests, that the United States should not go ahead unilaterally with measures that endanger South Korea's interests. So it's really treading a very, very fine line.
Yeah. Now, Mr. Moon said,
on the one hand,
yes.
Now,
Mr. Moon said in an interview that the deployment of THAAD last month lacked democratic procedures such as an environmental assessment and a public hearing, but he did not say the deployment should be cancelled. Is there really a possibility of him reversing the deployment of THAAD?
What he said was that he would put it to a vote in the National Assembly. It's very, very difficult for South Korea to reverse the deployment if the United States strongly insists. However, South Korea should be able to take some steps, some positive steps towards China to show that South Korea's future direction of policy will not be aimed against China. For example, progress in the inter-Korean relations. This would alleviate tensions with North Korea, the reasons for which have given justification to the deployment of THAAD. So I wouldn't expect THAAD to be reversed rapidly, but the case for THAAD could be gradually chipped away.
Finally, China welcomes Moon Jae-in's election and hopes for a closer rapprochement with South Korea. However, the experience with the last leader, Park Geun-hye, is still fresh in our memory. She was very close to Beijing, despite the opposition from many in her country, but things almost soured overnight. Is there a danger that we are expecting too much from this new guy?
Well, President Park, I think, was sincere in wanting to improve relations with China. However, she was very much, her party was very much driven domestically by the Cold War, by the history of the Cold War. Very much supported by the older generation. By contrast, Moon Jae-in's support base, I would say, consists more of younger voters who are less driven by the Cold War demographic. So you don't have this problem of domestic politics, domestic anti-communism getting in the way of relations with China.